Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another movie review. Today, last night me and the lad watched the classic 1960s H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. Just because he's been quite interested to watch it. Are you interested in it too, mate? Okay. Now I first saw this back in school. um, because we used to have in the junior school we used to have like a what was like a film club night. It was like Thursdays once a month after school in the evening, and this is one we used to see classic films like The Land That Time Forgot and things like that, and this was one of the films. So we saw I saw this way back then. So it took me right back to see this film. We picked it up in HMV. It's one of HMV's premium collection movies because the lads always quite fancied it. So I said, well, we'll pick it up because it was in 2 for 15 and there was a film that I was interested in picking up. So we picked it up and we watched it last night, and it was a good film. It was really, really cool. It's filmed in 1960. It's an American film, um, and it's supposedly filmed like in London, Britain, but it was actually filmed in America, in California. But it had some British actors and stuff in it because they wanted to make it like an English sort of environment. And it looks just like a sort of like a Hammer film. It's got that sort of Victorian Gothic camp sort of look to it, with lots of candles and they're all dressed rather smart and poshly, and it's really really nice, and it's held up really well. It looks really really good. The transfer on the Blu-ray is really good, and the story's based on uh, a sort of scientist who he invents this little time machine. It's only about that big, and he shows all his sort of scientists and sort of friends, and then he makes it work, and it disappears from them on the table, and they'll go, "Wow, of course," sort of thing. And he says, "What if we can make a full size one, and and we can send people through the fourth dimension through time?" And they're all saying it's all hogwash and silly, and eventually they all leave apart from his friend. um, and he sort of like says to him, he's built it, do you want to see it? And his friend doesn't want to see it, and his friend tells him, if you built this thing, destroy it, don't have nothing to do with it, it's just going to bring you bad luck. Anyway, his friend goes home. It's all based around sort of New Year's sort of time after Christmas, and his friend goes home, and his housemaid, the inventor's housemaid, then sort of turns all the candles off for the night and stuff like this, and goes about her business, and he goes into a locked room, and there we see the time machine for the first time, which has got like a quite comfortable seat with controls in the front and this big wheel at the back, and he goes and sits in it, and he sort of pulls the lever forward just to go forward a few like moments in time, and he goes through like an hour or so, and he notices that all the clocks have changed and the candles gone down, but his clock on his on his chain, his has stayed the same. So he dares to go a little bit further into the year, and he sees like some things changing outside, like the mannequin in the shop window opposite with the women's dresses on their changes, and all this sort of thing sort of changed. And then he pulls it forward and forward and forward to about 18 years. And then he notices that a lot of things have sort of changed. So he gets out and goes outside, and his house has been sort of like all boarded up. Um, and this is in the year 2017, I think, because the film's in 1899. So he's gone forward like 18 years. And he then stops what he believes to be his friend outside the shop, and it's not. It's his friend's son. And he tells him that his friend has been killed in World War One, in the war, because during the wartime. And he's saying, what war? You know, he doesn't know anything or whatever. Um, so he then goes back to his house to go forward to see what happens after this war. And then he goes forward to about 1944. And again, it is in World War Two. He thinks it's the same war carrying on with Germany, but he doesn't realise that it's a different war. But then he thinks it must be because there's aircraft and airplane and air machines, he calls them. And so he goes even forward and he just leaves it. And he just goes forward centuries and centuries and centuries. And then he comes into the land right in the future where it's almost sort of like really futuristic, sort of sci-fi looking. And all the earth has gone back to sort of like nature a little bit. And then he goes out and has a walk around and he comes across some humans, but they're all completely different. They're not like humans of today. They all look like the young kids from Village of the Damned, to be honest. Anyway, he sort of starts befriends one of them, a girl called Weena. And we couldn't believe it because we kept giggling at this point because every time he was talking to her, so, you know, he was saying, yes, well, anyway, Weena. And he kept saying, Weena, where's Weena? And you know what I mean? And we all know what the slang for Weena is, but obviously back then it wasn't a sort of, or maybe a slang word for that sort of part of the body. But anyway, he met a girl called Weena, and then his time machine disappears, and then we meet the sort of creatures of the film called the Morlocks. And then the sort of film progresses around that sort of story of him trying to find his time machine and stuff like this. And that's it, really. And so it's a really cool film for its time. Some of the effects are extremely dated and very sort of claymation. And there's a part like when there's a world war taking place and there's like the cars look plastic and you can see it looks really, you know, but at the time it must have looked absolutely terrifying and cool and, you know, and real. But when you look at it now, you think, oh my God, that's just so silly. But it is of its time. But it was really, really cool. We really enjoyed the film. Sorry, I haven't done any clips for this. I've done this review on the whim because I thought, yeah, I'm going to do a little review of it because we both enjoyed it and it was really cool. And yeah, after we watched it, I said to Lad, "What do you think of it?" He said, "Yeah, it was good. You know, dated but very cool." I said, "Yeah, it's going to be dated, you know, because of its sort of era." And it was at the era of 1960 was the end of that sort of sci-fi sort of era, going into more of the horror era, the 60s of your Hammers in Britain. But this came out like late on in the sort of sci-fi kind of era. So, but it was really, really cool, and we enjoyed the premise of the film. Really good. I mean, I own the other H.G. Wells film, the original War of the Worlds. I've got that one on 4K, and the lads picked this one up. So it is really good to see sort of like a bit of a classic sci-fi film. Not going to score it because it's not a proper review. It was just about us watching the movie, really, and we had a good time. It's cool. So it's definitely worth picking up if you're interested in sort of if you're in big sci-fi films. I think you need, if you into collecting them, I think you do need this for your collection because it's like a classic. You know, it would be looked upon as a classic sci-fi. And it's probably gone on to influence. I mean, we kept seeing elements of Doctor Who. We kept seeing the elements of Star Trek. You know what I mean? When it went into the future, it looked like a Star Trek set, and obviously the creatures looked like something from Star Trek. But then the sort of premise of this time machine is very, very Doctor Who. So it's influenced many, many sort of films and programs. So if you are into the sci-fi, it's definitely worth picking up. Cheers, guys.